First and foremost, it just revealed the kind of character that we have. The toughness, the relentless spirit, the flexibility.
Everything is falling apart, and the entire system looks moments away from a complete collapse while the people running the league keep making the chaos even worse. This is no longer just about basketball anymore. It has turned into an all-out rebellion inside the WNBA, a direct war against the league's biggest opportunity and brightest future, Caitlin Clark. Now that internal battle has created its first major public fallout as a respected head coach walked away from the spotlight completely. She didn't simply leave a position, she stepped away from the fans, from public accountability, and from the non-stop pressure created by millions of frustrated voices demanding answers. The truth became impossible to silence, and the growing outrage exposed a league struggling to control its own chaos. What we are watching right now is a full-scale system breakdown happening in front of everyone, where common sense is being destroyed live for the entire sports world to witness. The mainstream sports media keeps pushing a carefully crafted narrative, telling fans that everything happening is normal rookie treatment and just another example of physical basketball, but more and more people are no longer buying that story. Fans who are pouring attention, money, and energy into the league are loudly calling out what they believe is unfair treatment toward Caitlin Clark, and their frustration has finally become impossible to ignore. Even Stephanie White, head coach of the undefeated Connecticut Sun, found herself directly in the middle of the controversy after facing the Indiana Fever. During that matchup, many fans believed Clark was targeted with overly aggressive and unnecessary physical play, continuing a growing pattern critics say has spread across the league. To frustrated viewers, the strategy feels simple. If opponents cannot match her talent or outplay her offensively, then the focus shifts toward rough, relentless contact instead. But this time the backlash exploded far beyond a few online complaints, turning into a massive wave of outrage that flooded social media and pushed the debate surrounding the league to an entirely different level. A massive storm of frustration erupted from Caitlin Clark fans, a passionate audience many believe is now driving the league's entire surge in attention and popularity. Supporters are exhausted from watching the league's biggest star take relentless physical punishment night after night, and the backlash exploded across social media with angry comments flooding the official pages of Stephanie White, and the Connecticut Sun fans called the style of play embarrassing, accused the team of targeting Clark unfairly, and demanded the league start protecting its most valuable stars instead of allowing overly aggressive basketball to continue unchecked. The criticism became non-stop, with thousands of users questioning whether the game had crossed the line from competition into something far more personal. Many supporters argued that jealousy and resentment toward a young superstar were fueling the hostility, insisting Clark's talent and influence have already changed the future of the WNBA forever. For hours the outrage kept growing, creating a digital firestorm from fans convinced the league is failing to support the one player capable of taking women's basketball to a global level. Then came the moment that intensified the controversy even further, as White suddenly deleted her X account and disappeared from the public conversation. A move many angry fans immediately viewed as a reaction to the overwhelming backlash and mounting pressure surrounding the situation. There is simply no convincing explanation left for what fans believe is happening around Caitlin Clark, and the outrage has grown far beyond a few angry comments online. This situation has turned into a serious crack within the entire WNBA structure, especially after Stephanie White, the coach of an undefeated team, disappeared from social media following intense backlash from fans the league heavily depends on for growth and survival. Supporters are sending a loud and direct message that they no longer trust the narrative being pushed around the league, believing there is resentment, unfair treatment, and a coordinated effort to diminish the league's biggest star. Many fans are refusing to support a product they feel is damaging its own future, and that frustration is creating enormous pressure across the organization, from veteran players to coaches and media figures connected to the old guard. Critics now believe the league has unintentionally created a toxic us versus them atmosphere that continues to divide players, fans, and personalities across women's basketball. What makes the backlash even more explosive is the belief that major media outlets tried to downplay the controversy and present everything as normal competition, only for millions of passionate new viewers to reject that explanation completely and push back harder than anyone expected. The league completely underestimated how emotionally and financially invested millions of fans have become in Caitlin Clark, and what started as basketball controversy has now exploded into something far bigger. To many supporters, this feels like a cultural battle between a rising superstar and an establishment they believe is threatened by her popularity, influence, and ability to transform the entire sport. Clips of hard fouls and overly physical plays involving players like Chindy Carter and Tiara McCowan have continued spreading across social media, fueling outrage from fans who insist the treatment Clark receives goes far beyond normal competition. Critics argue that what they are witnessing night after night no longer looks like standard basketball defense but instead a pattern of intimidation that the league has failed to properly address. Supporters claim veteran players are struggling to accept the attention and fame Clark has brought to the WNBA, creating even more tension around every physical interaction on the court. At the center of the frustration is the belief that referees and league officials have not done enough to control the escalating physicality, leaving fans convinced the situation is either being ignored or badly mishandled. Whether fair or not, that perception has spread rapidly online, and millions of viewers now feel they are watching a league-wide controversy unfold in real time with every nationally discussed game. Fans have become increasingly furious over the non-stop physical play surrounding Caitlin Clark, from hard off-ball contact to constant grabbing and aggressive cheap shots that many viewers believe cross the line of normal basketball. Critics argue that coaches like Stephanie White have allowed a style of play built around wearing Clark down physically instead of simply trying to outplay her on talent alone. When frustrated fans pushed back online, many saw White stepping away from social media as a sign she could no longer handle the growing criticism surrounding the controversy. To supporters, that moment became symbolic of a league suddenly facing accountability from a massive new audience that refuses to stay silent anymore. Fans believe the WNBA never expected this level of public scrutiny, but now the backlash has exploded into a major conversation about the league's future and how it treats its biggest stars. The financial stakes make the situation even more intense because many fans remember how different the league looked before Clark's arrival, when arenas often struggled with attendance and mainstream attention felt limited. Now sold-out crowds, viral highlights, and massive online engagement have transformed the atmosphere around the Indiana Fever, leading supporters to argue that Clark's impact has changed the visibility and popularity of women's basketball in ways the league cannot afford to ignore. Almost overnight, Caitlin Clark transformed into the driving force behind the WNBA's explosive rise in popularity and revenue. Ticket prices around the league skyrocketed, television ratings shattered previous records, and her jersey sales reached historic levels rarely seen across professional sports. Fans watched as her impact brought unprecedented attention to women's basketball, generating enough momentum and financial growth to help push major league changes like the approval of charter flights for every team. To supporters, Clark has become far more than just a talented rookie. She represents the biggest business opportunity the league has ever seen. That is why many viewers are stunned by what they believe is a lack of protection and support surrounding the league's brightest star. Fans argue that any smart organization would place enormous value on protecting a player capable of attracting millions of new viewers, selling out arenas, dominating headlines, and reshaping the future of the sport. Instead, critics believe the league should be building its entire promotional strategy around Clark's popularity, from marketing campaigns and television coverage to social media branding, because her influence has already changed the visibility of the WNBA on a massive scale. Many fans believe the WNBA should have fully embraced Caitlin Clark as the clear centerpiece of the league, building its identity and future around the unprecedented attention she has brought to women's basketball. Instead, critics argue the opposite has happened, with growing frustration over physical play, public criticism from veteran players, and constant debates surrounding her popularity dominating headlines every week. Supporters feel some established stars and personalities have spent more time questioning Clark's rise than celebrating the massive exposure and financial growth now benefiting the entire league. To angry fans, it looks like resentment and jealousy are creating unnecessary division at the exact moment the sport has its greatest opportunity to expand globally. Many believe the WNBA has been handed a once-in-a-generation superstar capable of transforming ratings, ticket sales, sponsorships, and mainstream relevance, yet the league continues to struggle with the controversy surrounding her treatment both on and off the court. Critics compare the situation to historic turning points in sports history, arguing that major leagues succeed when they protect and promote transcendent stars instead of allowing negativity and hostility to overshadow them. For supporters, the WNBA now faces a defining moment that could shape the future of the league for years to come, depending on how it handles the attention, pressure, and enormous expectations surrounding Clark's rise. Many fans now believe the WNBA is deeply divided between an old establishment trying to protect its status and a new wave of supporters rallying behind Caitlin Clark as the future face of the sport. Critics argue that some players, coaches, and league figures seem more focused on resisting Clark's rise than embracing the massive attention and financial growth she has brought to women's basketball. Across social media, fans continue flooding comment sections with frustration, insisting mainstream sports coverage is ignoring or downplaying the anger spreading throughout the community. Much of the backlash intensified after Stephanie White deleted her social media account, a move many supporters interpreted as a response to overwhelming criticism following the physical play involving the Indiana Fever star. Online comments accused the league of allowing resentment and fear among veteran players to overshadow the opportunity Clark represents for the WNBA's future growth. Whether those accusations are fair or not, the perception has exploded into a major cultural debate among basketball fans, with thousands of viewers claiming the league is mishandling the attention surrounding its biggest new superstar and failing to unite around the moment that could redefine women's basketball forever. Unless the NBA leadership intervenes, critics argue the situation around Caitlin Clark and the WNBA could continue escalating into a major league-wide crisis. The argument being pushed is that you cannot promote a generational superstar and then allow ongoing physical intensity and controversy around her without long-term consequences for the product itself. Supporters of this view describe it as a serious blend of public relations strain, competitive tension, and business risk that the league office cannot afford to ignore. In this narrative, recent reactions from figures like Stephanie White stepping away from social media are seen by some fans as symbolic of a wider pressure building across the sport rather than a single isolated incident. Critics claim the league currently lacks clear answers or a consistent communication strategy, and that the ongoing debates are exposing deeper fractures in how the game is being presented and managed during this high-growth moment. As the discussion intensifies, many fans warn that repeated controversies, whether about physical play, coaching decisions, or media narratives, risk damaging the momentum the WNBA has recently gained. They argue that sponsors and casual viewers are attracted to stability, star power, and positive storytelling, and could become discouraged if the public perception shifts toward constant conflict. From this perspective, the league's rapid rise in visibility is seen as fragile, dependent on how well it balances competition with protecting its biggest draw in Caitlin Clark. Supporters of this argument believe that if tensions continue to dominate headlines, the broader audience that has recently tuned in may eventually lose interest, slowing the growth the league has worked decades to build. A growing section of fans believes the WNBA is mishandling its biggest opportunity in decades centered around Caitlin Clark, arguing that the league should be doing far more to protect and promote its top talent rather than allowing constant controversy to dominate the conversation. Supporters of this viewpoint often compare professional sports leagues, pointing to how organizations like the NFL protect quarterbacks with strict rules and penalties, or how the NBA has historically adjusted its style of play to highlight superstar scorers rather than limit them. In contrast, critics claim the WNBA has not clearly prioritized its most marketable players, leading to ongoing debates about physicality, officiating, and star protection that now define much of the public discussion. Within that tension, reactions involving figures like Stephanie White have become part of a larger narrative about pressure, criticism, and the intense spotlight surrounding the league's rapid growth. Fans who share this perspective argue that instead of unifying around rising visibility, the league appears divided over how to handle its surge in attention, creating frustration on all sides. At the center of it all is the belief that women's basketball is in a critical expansion phase, where decisions about branding, rules, and player protection could shape its long-term future. Whether seen as growing pains or mismanagement, the situation has sparked one of the most heated conversations the sport has seen in years, with audiences closely watching how the league responds moving forward. Fans feel like they are watching everything unfold in real time, and many believe there is already more than enough footage, slow-motion clips, and social media reaction to form strong opinions about what is happening around Caitlin Clark. Every game, every whistle, and every highlight is being dissected online within minutes, creating a non-stop cycle of debate that keeps the controversy alive far beyond the court. To a large section of viewers, this moment represents a league under extreme pressure, trying to balance its long-standing identity with a sudden explosion of global attention, higher expectations, and a completely new audience that has arrived almost overnight. As the discussion grows, calls for change are becoming louder and more direct. Some fans are demanding stricter officiating, clearer rules around physical contact, and more consistent protection for star players as the league continues to expand its visibility. In this environment, reactions involving figures like Stephanie White have become part of a broader conversation about how quickly narratives form in modern sports, and how difficult it is for coaches and players to navigate constant public scrutiny. At the same time, the speed of social media has turned every moment into instant analysis, where emotions often spread faster than context. For supporters, this era feels like a major turning point in women's basketball, where passion, competition, and media attention are all colliding at once. Some argue the physical style of play simply reflects traditional hard-nosed basketball that has always existed in the game, while others believe the league must evolve to better protect its most visible and influential stars in order to continue growing. The result is a deeply divided fan base, with each side interpreting the same actions on the court in completely different ways. At the center of it all is a rapidly evolving league experiencing unprecedented exposure, where every possession, every foul, and every reaction now carries amplified meaning in shaping the future of the sport.